Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Hospitality Hotline. It's 10 o'clock. Welcome to our winter version of this standing weekly tradition that we have where I answer your questions about hospitality. And today we have kind of a grab bag of 4 wonderful questions that have been submitted. And I want to encourage you to continue to submit questions. Honestly, it's about hospitality, and look at me. This encompasses everything. It's not just cooking. It's not just table settings. It involves things like how we care well for others, how we care well for ourselves, limits, boundaries, grocery lists. I could make an argument that any topic involves hospitality, so ask me anything. We'll see where that goes. Okay, let's dive in. Our first question says, do you have any tips for hosting gatherings, particularly dinner parties, on a relatively tight budget? I feel like I always go way over. This is such a great question. I get it a lot, and I do have some thoughts. First of all, I want to lay a little bit of groundwork and say everybody has a budget, and the word tight is very relative. So I don't know exactly what your frame of reference is, but I do think it is such a wise choice if you're going to have a gathering, particularly a dinner party, because those tend to be a little bit more special or intentional than a casual family dinner. But I think it's so wise to set boundaries and limits on the amount of resources that you're going to spend on a particular event. And there's nothing wrong with setting those amounts based on what's right or comfortable or reasonable for your station in life. So your dinner party budget may be $100 and someone else's dinner party budget may be $1,000, and that's not a right or wrong, that's just a reality. And both of those numbers, it's relative to what you've got and what's available, so that whole stewardship issue is something that is definitely not one size fits all. But once you decide that you're going to set aside a particular amount to spend on a gathering, I think it's so great to stay within those limits and boundaries. Just like last week when the person asked, hey, I have a small dining room table, what do I do about hosting a dinner party? And my answer was, if you can only seat 6 people, guess how many people you can invite? Counting yourself, 6. The same principle applies. If you have $100 to spend on a dinner party, guess how much you can spend? $100. That's learning to live within your limits. Such a healthy way to live. So I think I know actually what you're really asking, and it's not my soapbox about budgeting, but I would encourage you to look at past experiences and where this has been challenging for you. For example, I might be speaking from personal experience here. Let's say that you have budgeted $50 for flowers. You're like, that's all I'm going to spend. It seems like a reasonable amount. You go to get flowers and get wooed by all the beautiful blooms and end up spending $200 because there were just so many options, and you got to thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if I had all these flowers? Well, that's not a budget issue, that's a self-control issue. And this is me talking to myself. I am the worst at this. So it's hard, it's real hard, but it's the good kind of hard. Learning to say no and stay within what we've already kind of defined as the boundaries for a particular spending, it's a good thing to stretch yourself in. There are situations where a budget you've got to kind of step outside, but for the most part, I don't need $200 worth of flowers if I set out 50. I need to exercise some self-control. Now, you do need to feed your people, and they are going to want something to drink, and that can be expensive. Throwing a dinner party does incur cost, and my suggestion to you, it is not bad form for a dinner party to ask people to help. I would say it is a little bit, maybe we need to talk about it one-on-one, or maybe your situation, it can go either way. But if you're inviting people over for a dinner party, the assumption is you're going to provide the food and beverage. So to outsource the entire thing, I think that's maybe not the heart of a dinner party. I think we're not having a potluck, and that can be fun too. Let's have a potluck, but whatever. delegate some of the things that are okay to delegate. For example, I think it's totally fine to ask people to bring the alcohol, meaning the wine or the, if you're going to have a cocktail, ask everybody to bring a bottle of whatever alcohol you need. But be specific. Don't leave it open-ended, unless you're willing to just kind of be open to whatever they walk in the door with. You might say, would you please bring 2 bottles that are the same Pinot Noir? You can choose, but bring me 2 bottles of Pinot Noir. Great. Or we need a total of 6 bottles of red and white mixed. I don't care, do your best. Just know that the more specific you are, the more you're gonna get what you really are expecting. So alcohol is a great one to delegate. Never delegate the appetizer, because you want that ready and waiting when your guests arrive. And if the person that's delegated to bring the appetizer is late, that can be awkward. So careful there. I think maybe you could delegate dessert. Maybe. If you had a friend that you trusted in that and it wouldn't seem like you were trying to get out of it or something, dessert is something delegatable. Beyond that, you need to choose a menu that highlights relatively inexpensive ingredients. So a menu based around something like pasta, or a menu based around chicken, or a menu based around lentils. All of these are very low cost items that you can amp up with flavorings and techniques, so you're not involving things like beef or a lot of dairy or a lot of expensive produce. That's where the costs really start to add up, is when you have expensive cuts of meat, a lot of dairy. Dairy is very expensive. And then sometimes produce can also, depending on what it is, avocados are expensive, carrots aren't. But, just choose wisely what you're going to serve, and, round it out with a couple loaves of bread. Everybody can fill up on bread. The other thing, I heard someone say one time, you're only really, I'm going to botch this, but you're only really poor if you're out of time, talent, and money. So if you're on a tight monetary budget, but you have a lot of time to kind of process things yourself, don't buy convenience items. Chop everything yourself. There are products that we purchase where the work has kind of been done for us, and then there are products that we purchase and then we do the work. And if you're trying to stay on a budget, one thing you can do is process everything yourself. So I'm not sure, it depends on the menu, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, so that's the answer to the first question. Number 2, this is a question I'm assuming directed at me. How many times a week do you grocery shop? What are your favorite grocery stores? I love to talk about grocery shopping. I think I might list grocery shopping as one of my hobbies. From a young age, I've always loved being in the grocery store. I don't know what it is. It really is one of my happy places. My number 1 favorite Love You for Life grocery store is Central Market. I consider it therapy to go there. I would go there if I don't need anything. I love walking around that place. I know a lot of the people, I've gotten to know a lot of the people that work there just because I'm there so much. They are friendly, they're helpful. I love their products. I love their store. I really love everything about that store. Beyond that, let me speak to this question. I have 4 full-size children, so not littles, full-size children, plus my husband. So there are 6 of us who live in our home. We all eat full portions of food. We go to Costco once a week and get as many things that make sense to buy in bulk as possible. And when I say we go to Costco, what I really mean is my husband goes to Costco. A couple years ago, he took over that task, and it's one of the greatest gifts he's ever given us, is he goes to Costco once a week for us. So all the things that make sense to buy in bulk, we get at Costco. And it's, on the week that you buy paper towels, that lasts 2 or 3 weeks. So the next week you're not buying paper towels, but maybe you're buying dog food. You understand how buying in bulk works. So we have kind of a staple grocery list that we work off of things we get from Costco. Then, without fail, there are things that we need that Costco doesn't sell that are just normal grocery things, and we typically do a very small once a week run to Target. And again, when I say we, I mean him. And these are things that either it doesn't make sense for us to buy in bulk because we don't need 10,000 envelopes, we need 20. So, you go to a quote unquote normal grocery store, like a Target, we go to Target. You could go to a Walmart or Tom Thumb or, just one of those normal grocery stores. And there's usually a very small list of things that we need from there. On top of that, because I love to cook and because I love it so much, I usually make 1 to 2 to maybe 3 trips to Central Market every week for really specialty items that I would rather get from that store than somewhere else. For example, I will make a trip to Central Market to get their fresh herbs because I think they're the best fresh herbs in town. I will go to Central Market to get specialty bread. Oh my gosh, the bread in their bakery. Like last night, I made beef stew and I wanted bread, and I will go out of my way to go get bread from Central Market instead of just running to a store that might be closer. If I need a cheese, I'm going to Central Market. I know it's inefficient, but hear me say it's kind of one of the gifts I give myself. I love that store. Now, if that sounds like a lot to you, I want you to keep in mind, number one, I'm not the one going to the first 2 grocery stores, my husband is. And second, Hurley House also orders groceries from Central Market, Target, Tom Thumb, and Costco, in addition to our bulk order from our food distributor. I use Instacart and Shipt multiple times a week. I mean multiple times a week. And during the Ina in a Year project, when I was going to the grocery store 4 or 5 times a week, I was using the Central Market curbside service almost every morning. Meaning I was placing orders, dropping my kids off at the high school right across the street, pulling into the parking lot, getting my groceries, and coming to work. The curbside service is amazing. So that's kind of my spiel on grocery shopping. It has looked different. Right now, our family's goal is to maximize efficiency. So we go once a week big, and then I supplement with tiny little runs. This summer, my husband and 2 older children were out of town for a long time, and it was just me and the littles. We went to the store every day and just got what we needed for the day in tiny little portions, and it was so fun and so different than how we lived during the school year. So I can see how different ages and stages of children, different lifestyles, like there's not a right or wrong way to do this. I like the grocery store. I know people that hate the grocery store, and isn't it wonderful that we live in a time where you can push a button on your phone and your groceries can come to you. So enough about grocery shopping. Ask me more questions about that if you think of any. I love to talk about it. All right, this is my favorite question for today. Number 3, how do you throw a birthday party for yourself? Is that even a thing you can do without it being awkward? I'm single, never married, don't have any kids of my own, and all my family I'm related to lives in different time zones. So there's no quote unquote built-in person to organize something. I like celebrating birthdays, including my own, but most years I don't really do anything for my birthday because it just seems weird to invite people to a party I'm throwing for myself. Is there a way to do that which isn't awkward and uncomfortable? Yes, there is. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I just want to, yes, all day long, yes. You can do this. It is not awkward. The only way this is going to be awkward is if you make it awkward. I love the idea of organizing and throwing your own birthday party. It is not a sad commentary on anything. It is a celebration of your life, and it is a self-respecting expression of who you are and inviting the people you love in to do that with you. 1 year, 3 years ago, maybe 4, I threw my own birthday party because I wanted to, because I had an idea for something I wanted to do, and I wanted to execute it the way I wanted to execute it. And my husband thought it was a little like, what are you doing? And I was like, I just want to do this. This is what I want to do. And so I did, and it was fabulous. And I would say the only thing about this that would be weird or awkward is if you turn it weird or awkward. It's not weird or awkward. I would love it. I would love to be invited to someone's birthday party that they're throwing for themselves, because thank you for providing a situation for me to celebrate you and love you. I think that's wonderful. Now, here's my one tip. Do not apologize and do not downplay it. Don't give excuses for why you're doing this. No excuse necessary. No apology necessary. You have nothing to apologize for. Fully embrace the idea that you are throwing a birthday party for yourself and inviting others in with you to do the same, and then have a good time. Enjoy those people. Enjoy the party. No apologies and no downplaying or excuse making. Nobody needs to do that. You don't need to do that. I know this person, and I want to hear from you if you do this, because I want to be there to support you emotionally in your endeavor to celebrate your life. Okay, last question. Very short, very easy, very tactical. I have a ton of blackberries. What an excellent problem to have. From my uncle's haul. What do I do with them? I have a lot of doctor's offices who I would love to drop something off to, so should I do muffins, scones, any help? First of all, I'm so sorry. You submitted this question several weeks ago, and my gut is that you have probably figured out something to do with the blackberries or not, but I apologize for the delay. But let's talk about berries, and what I'm about to tell you will apply to blackberries, blueberries, raspberries. It will not apply very well to strawberries, and I think that's all the berries. I don't know any other berries. You need to freeze them. And the way you freeze berries is you get a sheet tray and you put them on a single layer, uncovered, just spread them out in a single layer on the sheet tray, put them in the freezer for a couple of hours. Once they're frozen, and you'll be able to tell they'll feel frozen, they won't be soft anymore, then you can pile them into gallon zip bags or quart zip bags and seal them up and store them in your freezer. So you may have to do a couple of rounds of this, but it's better than piling them all into a bag and then freezing them, because then when you go to get them out, they're kind of like a huge glob of frozen berry. Instead, if you put them out flat and freeze them, when you go to get them, they will be like individually free. You could pick out one blackberry is what I'm getting at. So then you can use frozen berries in anything that you would use fresh berries in. You can use them in smoothies, and that way you won't have to add ice. You can use them in baked goods. You don't need to thaw them, just put them right in. So any muffin recipe, any quick bread, any scone, any coffee cake. Oh my gosh, Ina has a delicious, she calls it blueberry crumb cake. You could sub in raspberry, you could sub in blackberries, and all of these can use frozen fruit. Just don't thaw it first, because then the water when you freeze something, it breaks the cell wall, then the water comes out, and so when you thaw it, you kind of have a lot of mess. Just put it in the batter frozen, and it'll work its way out in the oven. It'll be much cleaner that way. You can also, if you're really feeling ambitious, you can make jam with extra berries. I have a recipe on my blog for strawberry skillet jam, and if you Google skillet jam, the thing I love about skillet jam is it's not this huge production process where you're, tons and tons and tons of fruit and all the canning and the pressure and the temperature. Skillet jam, you can make it while you're making toast. It's a very small batch of jam that is done really quickly, and it's a great way to use up extra fruit. And then you can just store it in the fridge. It's not shelf stable, so you gotta refrigerate it so we don't get the botulism. But that is a great thing to do with extra fruit. Come to think of it, I also have a recipe on my blog for blackberry skillet cobbler. And I know that's seasonally off right now as we're in the middle of the winter tundra, but it's so good, and you can also sub in frozen blackberries. So have fun with the frozen blackberries. Maybe next time you'll share some with the rest of us, because blackberries happen to be my favorite berry. Okay, those are all our questions for today. I feel like this was a really quick but good session. I would love to hear from you guys. If you have questions about the holidays, if you have questions about parenting, children, hospitality at home, there's really not a subject that's off base. I love this back and forth, so keep the questions coming. And until then, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.